Hi, I'm Todd Murphy with Universal Information Services. I last spoke to UNO at the 2010 event, 10-10-10, and this year was asked to mark that occasion by giving you a video update at the 2020 event regarding what might have changed in terms of measuring media and how we use data. I think there's several points to make, and one is probably the most concerning thing that we didn't anticipate 10 years ago is information has really been weaponized to a large degree. Misinformation is being used widely now in social media, user-generated media, and at a more formal level you have disinformation being used oftentimes by governments or competing governments to affect outcomes in different countries. These are things that at least weren't talked about much 10 years ago. It's sad that we find ourselves in this state at this point. Although, as people often say, history repeats itself, it's easy to look back to World War I and World War II, where art was potentially used to influence inhabitants of another country as propaganda. So it's not the first time that a democratic medium has been used for ulterior motives. So I think that's probably the biggest change I've seen in the last 10 years is the enthusiasm and the excitement around social media, which as of 2008 was a fairly new medium. By 2010, when we were talking about it at the 10-10-10 event, it was widespread, still very exciting. Brands were using it. Our media measurement department was working with UNO at the time to develop ways to measure how social media integrated with traditional media and online media. And since that time, we've really seen changes occur to social media. Even more recently, we've seen people using the media to discredit the media. Political parties are using it to cast doubt on factual journalism, which is attacking our First Amendment. Journalists have been murdered in the last 10 years, and understand that journalists have always been somewhat of a target throughout history, and that's not new to the last 10 years. But what I think is new to me, at least in the last 30 years of my professional career, is the distrust of the media. A concerted effort has been undertaken to discredit the work that professional journalists do, where social media at one time was seen as the democratization of media, and people were able to post facts and truths that they had uncovered. Now it's the pendulum in a way has swung completely in the wrong direction. People are posting lies and conspiracies and, quite frankly, ridiculous stories that point to political factions to either support them or discredit them. So I think that's the greatest worry I have. Journalism, media has always been the watchdogs to watch our governments, to make sure tyranny didn't run amok or run away with itself. But when you lose journalists, when you lose trust in journalism, when you see an attack on the First Amendment, that's when I become very concerned. My children are already grown, and they'll have to find their own way, run their own race. But I don't think, unless we recapture the fundamentals of the First Amendment and make sure that it's really taught and understood by all of our citizens in the United States, I don't see how democracy can survive in our country until we return a respect to journalists, we protect the First Amendment, and we get back to the ability to use media to spread good news, inform people of the facts, and also do things like promote brands and services and initiatives. The public relations field has always used the media, whether it's television, radio, print, social, or web, to promote behavioral change that convinces you to use one product over another, or eat one ice cream versus another ice cream. Those are what I find interesting. Those are things that I find safe. And I think everyone has an ethical obligation to use the media, whether it's consumer-generated media or professional journalism. You have an obligation to use it ethically. I see in my role as a news monitoring and media measurement corporation, we see the abuse of that right now. We see the abuse of it on social media to the point where the noise has become so loud that much of what is legitimate is being drowned out. People aren't seeing things that they should be. They're not receiving messages that could help them. In the middle of a pandemic, the year is 2020, when you have a battle over whether or not masks can help, and that battle is propagated by one side to discredit the other side, that's a very dangerous thing we have.